himself, tell a little bit about himself, and then Abby will go next. And you can quickly, after they introduce themselves, you can quickly go around the room and kind of say where you're from and how you got to senior services, as long as you keep it to 30 seconds. John.
Okay, so probably the coolest thing is on November 19th was my birthday, and we had twin granddaughters.
Nice. Nice, congratulations.
Been living in Crystal Lake since '91. We love Crystal Lake, love McHenry County. Eric, you and I have talked, but you probably don't remember. Yeah, so businessman for 33 and a half years, Navy vet, lots of kids, lots of grandkids, and great grandkids.
Wonderful.
Next.
Anne.
Yeah, how do I follow that? My name is Abby Nicholas. I'm the new executive director at NAMI McHenry County, so the National Alliance on Mental Illness. Been there since July 1st, and before that was working for nonprofits in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So been in nonprofit management for 10 years, and born and raised in McHenry County, moved back in 2020. So I'm really glad to be back, working in my hometown, home county, and so glad to be joining you all here for this important cause. NAMI serves seniors indirectly, but it's not our focus area. So familiar with nonprofits, nonprofit management, budgets, programs, and glad to kind of lend that expertise, if you will, to this commission.
Perfect, thank you. Carrie, why don't you start?
Carrie Holtz, I've been on for 1 month longer than these two.
Oh, you're bragging. Right away.
I need seniority, so just want to put that out there. So I am the finance manager at Family Health Partnership Clinic, as well as some other nonprofits in the community. And I was inspired to do this to follow up my boss, Suzanne Hoban, who was on the commission before.
Nice to see the age range here. I think it's important. I'm Rhonda Goldman, and I'm a village trustee in Huntley. And the mayors in McHenry put me forth to be on this commission, and then they just re-upped me till 2025. So I'm grateful that they're all so wonderful. It is a family feeling. I just went to McCook, and we all like each other. There's no competition between the mayors. I've never seen anything like this. It really is a communal feeling, and it makes you feel good that you're out there and you're appreciated.
Excellent, thank you, Rhonda. Eric?
Hi, Eric Ruth, first year on the committee, and I am here representing Grafton Township. I'm the Grafton Township Supervisor.
Scott Hennings, it's also my first year on the commission. I am the Assistant Director of Transportation at the McHenry County DOT. So we help run a bus program that primarily serves seniors and people with disabilities. So that's kind of why I fit into this group.
I'm Peggy Hart. I'm a commissioner at large, and I've been on this commission for about 6 or 7 years now. I was born and raised in Woodstock, and this is my way of giving back.
Staff?
Faith Taylor, Senior Community Development Specialist, and taking minutes right now, running streaming live.
Heidi?
Heidi Barodi, and I'm the newest Community Development Specialist on the team. I've been here about 2 weeks.
Bianca Gonzalez, I've been here for last week, I think it was actually 5 years. Just took on senior service this last year. Bianca Gonzalez, I don't think I said my name.
And as you all know, I'm the chair, Pamela Altoff, and have been on the county board now for, I believe it is 5 years. So welcome to all of you.
And weren't you the state senator for a while?
I was that too.
Yeah.
Wasn't mayor, was a lot of things in my life. Let's not go there. It really makes me sound old. So the next item on the agenda is to review and approve the meeting minutes. Can I have a motion from someone to approve them in a second?
I move to approve the minutes.
Thanks, Peg. And a second from Rhonda. I see that.
I'll do a second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
I wasn't at the meeting.
So you can just abstain if you want to do that. Ab, you can do that as well.
Okay, I will abstain. I did watch it virtually, but I will abstain.
You can, you don't have to. Motion is carried. Public comment, there is no public comment. I'm going to switch the agenda around with your permission. Gary Barlett is here from McHenry Township, and I want him to give you guys kind of a brief update on what is kind of moving forward and transpiring between McHenry, Richmond, and Hebron. So, and he also has a recital to go to for his granddaughter, so he is the most important person here right now. So Gary, do you want to kind of come up?
How do you follow up twins?
Take I tried to give you some, Billy.
I appreciate it.
So if you want to just briefly kind of update the commission on where we are with the attempts to enter into intergovernmental agreements and consolidate and provide services.
Certainly.
I think it's just, we're moving.
So, yeah, what we've done is we've continued to meet jointly. There's been a few meetings, and we keep circling back to certain same things. Daily operations, what we currently have going, and the trials and tribulations there, and how we can help each other out with those. For instance, the Village of Hebron has a bus driver who's out, so we're trying to find a substitute bus driver. We're throwing ideas against the wall. They use a school bus currently, so you gotta have a school bus legal driver. I know the bus manager in Johnsburg, so hopefully I can talk her into volunteering somebody or getting a volunteer over there for 1 day a week. Along those lines too is our conversation is growing their program. They're a little farther out in the sticks than most, and I'll say. So one of the goals we set of this group between Richmond, Burton, McHenry Township, and the Village of Hebron, and we're working on getting the Township of Hebron to officially sign on. They don't know they've signed on already, but we'll let them know eventually. But we're trying to expand their program. And this is gonna take time.
And thank you, that's the most important part. It's gonna take a while.
It's gonna take time, but we wanna get them to 3 days a week by the end of the year. So if we can find a way to do that, and how we're doing that is we're exploring other alternative funding sources, not only from our own tax base, but also I've been in front of the Community Foundation. The Transformational Grant Group is coming up, so we'll be submitting an application for that. The stickler on that one is how does it become sustainable after the grants are done? So we got to figure out how to fund it. If we were lucky enough to get 3 years worth, is how do we replace those funds from them to keep the program going? Let me see here. Oh, one of the other things too is I'm relatively new. Our ridership, I don't know the program like I should in our area, so we created a survey. We're gonna roll it out to our riders in the first quarter to try to understand why do they choose our service? And just kind of get our age demographics. We've just purchased some new dispatching software. We're updating that data. We didn't ask for age data before, but we're gonna kind of gently ask for it so we can start putting numbers and facts together behind all of these programs. So the Community Foundation was one source of funding. I'm sorry, I'm jumping around. But also, we investigated a state grant from DECO. It's a state competition, but I'd much rather focus on what's available locally with the Community Foundation, so I backed out of that, trying to chase that one. And then also, CDBG is coming up again in January, so I'll probably be working on that one too to try to see if we can't get some money there. Dispatching I've talked about, really those are main things that we're talking about. The other thing that we really struggle with that we're trying to figure out is drivers. Drivers in my vans don't have to have a CDL.
And your vans are from PACE, correct? PACE provides.
Yeah, exactly. So
okay. Just so you guys know. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
PACE gives us, we lease from PACE 4 buses at $100 a month. So the capital expense for 4 buses, that's their support to us. So they're already got, a dog in the hunt, shall they say. And trying to go to them for additional funding too is another one that Scott's trying to help us out with. So we're working all angles. We continue to talk. It's going to ramp up more after January. The holidays kind of got us down here a little bit, but I appreciate the opportunity to come in. I can leave kind of a flyer here for the record and for all of you to take it. Just kind of covered the bullet points. So you have something as a little reminder as to what we're trying to accomplish. And I'll open it up to any questions that you may have at this time.
I would only suggest, Gary, that we continue to have the dialogue that you and I are having.
Yes.
And if there is any way that we can write letters of support or you need any kind of assistance in that regard, that you reach out and we can move forward. It's abundantly apparent that we're not going to get the kind of service that our seniors expect and anticipate from PACE because of their limitations. But if we can, if the county can support a service for that area, that's something that we really want to do. So any way we can assist and help you, we're here.
One extra.
Pam,
Okay,
can I jump in? I
Sure.
learned something the other night, okay? I think you should come to McCog in January, because this was just a social one,
Right.
all right, 2 nights ago. Yeah. I'm so busy, I remember which night, but, all right. I sat at the table that Wednesday night with State Rep Reich and then Mike Bueller, you know, et cetera, et cetera. And it's interesting that something was brought up that really bothers me and is scary. Back up. All police pensions, I don't know if you're aware of it, from municipalities, we no longer have control over the police pension money. It's all centralized in Springfield.
Except I'm gonna correct you, it's all centralized for investment, but you don't lose control of your individual accounts. Huntley's money is Huntley's money. You just may not get the return on investment that Huntley would get. But again, you're investing a larger pool of funds. But again, they can't suck, they don't put all the money into one big pot. Huntley will have its designated fund.
I understand that, but when it's still centralized, you get worried about loss of control, who's really looking at everything. I've heard, this is what Steve said, that they're talking about putting all transportation services into one pot, bringing together like Amtrak and PACE and all that stuff, okay?
yeah, there's a movement, I don't know exactly where it comes from. I sit on the McCog Executive Committee.
A report, it's
Yeah,
from
it's
the
a
report, the
report,
part, the part.
So there's been discussions, and I don't know how far along down the road they are, but RTA, Metra, is it CPAC?
CTA.
CTA. They're trying to make one big board out of those multiple boards. And what we're afraid of is that if they make one big board, it'll become the City of Chicago's transportation program.
Yep.
And everybody will be out. We won't have a voice like we have today in these regional transportation. So one of the things, I guess, your committee focuses on transportation. This one has a portion of transportation. Any support you guys can give us in trying to keep it the way it is, so we have our representation, would be important. I think that's what you're trying to say.
So, and real quickly, because I want to move on and not focus forever, McHenry County and all of the surrounding counties that are engaged in the RTA piece are all talking and trying to come up with a very specific narrative to educate people of the public of exactly what's happening and what's being proposed. And so the idea is you either keep the governance the same or you keep the percentage of the suburban representation the same in whatever it is that you do moving forward. So there's a couple of things. So again, thank you. It's anybody that needs further education, we're trying again to stop something that we think is again a grab for additional funds for the city of Chicago versus the rest of us out here.
That's why I think it's important for you both to be there at the January McCog meeting, because that's the topic.
I will be there. I'm always there.
Pick me up, I'll go.
There you go. I can do that.
I have a quick question if you don't mind.
I just wanted to give you that.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
We've
Thank
missed the
you.
boat a couple times.
Yeah. Just real quick, is there any overlapping in services with MC Ride with what you're trying to do, or I know they're scarce and it's
I'll say yes and no, but probably more towards the no side.
Okay.
We differentiate a little bit, but they have the capabilities of doing it. We're really a door-to-door service. And I would invite you out to take a ride with us. Anybody who wants to come out, you're more than happy to take a ride. Whatever time you have available, we'll put you on a bus with a driver and they'll just do their normal routine, so.
Go to the bathroom before you get on the bus.
Pardon me?
Go to the bathroom before you get on the bus. I keep telling people.
Well, we stop more frequently maybe. But there is some overlap there, but very, very little from what I'm understanding. Yeah.
Scott,
And that's,
can you actually provide a little bit more information about that?
That kind of builds off of something I was actually going to say.
Yeah,
I want to give credit to the McHenry Township. I took my daughter to the McHenry Library over the weekend, and I was in the front lobby area and I was looking at the brochures. And of course, McHenry Township Bus Programs brochure is front and center, really easy to see. And the MC Ride program, which is the county's program, nowhere to be found. There's no brochures there talking about the county's program, even though they operate in the same area, right? Our program operates in McHenry Township, just like their program does. It looks very similar. They're PACE buses that we use too. We're serving the same type of users, but their program is more, I guess, I would say personalized than our program. Our program is also door to door, but their drivers will be a little bit more, I guess, useful for the rider in terms of carrying their bags in. They might even sit with them for a little bit in the lobby, things like that that our drivers are not going to do for the rider. Our drivers will help them on and off the bus, but that's essentially the extent of the assistance that our drivers get.
Richmond's
Sometimes
even goes deeper than mine.
Yeah, and sometimes the township, they'll wait for you, right? You go grocery shopping and you're gonna be a half an hour, and sometimes they wait.
Good news and bad news, yeah, we can sometimes, when we have the time available. Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday of this week, we shut off rides on Tuesday. We were full. So we're hopping over there. We're short 2 drivers. I've got parks operation guys driving buses. So we're looking at wages for our bus drivers in this budget go around to see what we can do to try to level the playing field. If we can find some new money, that's probably where it's gonna go.
And I would let any of you, if you know of anyone who's seeking
Please.
to work, I mean, somebody who may be retired, semi-retired, who would want to do that, please let us know. PACE themselves are
Yeah,
having
if
trouble.
they don't hire them, we will.
Yeah, right, I was gonna say, it's pervasive across the county, I wouldn't say
It's
it's
everywhere.
just here.
It's
Yeah,
not-
it's just difficult. So if you know of anybody who might be interested, please get a hold of either Scott or Gary and provide them that information.
I'll just sum it up with this. Chairman Altoff said that communication, keep the communication going. That's gonna be the key to this whole thing, is that I'm gonna have to stay in communication and with my partners in Richmond, Burton, and also Village of Hebron. We're gonna have to stay in communication on a more frequent basis to make sure we know what each other is doing, and also in trying to help each other find funds.
And I think it's to keep all the programs sustainable, because again, lack
Absolutely.
of drivers means the program in Hebron, particularly in Richmond, that means they don't exist, right? So they have the money, we can't operate.
Yeah,
So-
we've gone out and actually started to talk to some of the car dealers about trying to find vehicles that they'd be willing to give us. Just now it's finding somebody to drive it is the other issue. So we're doing everything we can and have since we started this conversation to keep it going the way it is and then try to grow it a little bit. Come the springtime, it'll probably pop, so we're gonna have to be ready to rock.
I appreciate that muchly,
Okay.
Gary. Be careful tonight, have a good time, hope
I
you do as
will,
well.
thank you very
All
much.
right.
I appreciate the
Thank you.
time, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm around anytime. That phone number is my cell phone, so
Great.
I don't
Oh,
do
had that.
vacation.
Thank you.
We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Moving right along, and obviously, we're gonna be talking a little bit more about what kinds of things we can get behind and support, et cetera. But this issue is being talked about in a wide variety of committees as well as at different locations and even with PACE. So hopefully we'll bring you up to speed. Idea for our new members is this commission has limited funds, and we wanted to try and use those funds more appropriately. And transportation by the townships that are another taxing entity kind of is falling to the bottom of the pile. So we're looking for ways to help, but again, to utilize the funds that we have appropriately for the associations that really need the money to provide the services to seniors, so. Moving on, it is my extreme pleasure to introduce to you McHenry County Treasurer Donna Kurtz. Donna is going to give you a little bit of information. She came to Hans Mock, Bianca, and myself and indicated that she couldn't understand why we weren't taking advantage of investing some of our funds.
I was more polite than that.
You were, well, okay, you were much more polite. I felt like, duh. But again, incredibly savvy woman here who realized that we could take advantage of some of the higher interest rates that are now being offered and take our limited funds, invest them, and get some funds back. So Donna, I'm gonna turn it over to you and take the credit that you need to take for being, again, very proactive. It's great. So explain to my members exactly what it is that, and by the way, she doesn't have to ask permission as treasurer. She can do this, but again, that's the kind of, you talked earlier, that's the kind of collaboration we have here in McHenry County. So literally, she engaged us and said, what do you think? So, Donna.
Thanks, Pam. Thank you very much. I am somewhat newly elected. I've been on the job for a year. I actually had a pretty significant financial advisory experience prior to coming back to the county, and I was 8 years on the county board. And I've always been very concerned about money. I think it's a fascinating resource. If we do it right, we benefit. If we do it right for ourselves and individually, we benefit our families. If we do it right in government, we can maybe lessen the tax burden, but also in this case, we can create more value, and that allows us to do the good work, which is why you're here. You're here to try and help those who are vulnerable and who are seniors. And I do want to make a personal note that I sat on this committee, and I think I was the chairman too.
I think you were.
A couple of years, yeah. Yeah, I didn't have such an esteemed group as yourself, I will say that. But it is great to be here. Scott is also one of my clients. And Scott, would you vouch for me? Would you say we've done a good job so far?
Donna's done an excellent job reinvesting a lot of our DOT dollars that we have in our funds towards higher returning investments, and she's been very successful over the last year since we've started working on this together. So I think she'll have good things to do for this commission too.
Thank you, Scott. And my approach with this endeavor with your organization is to work very closely with Bianca. I consider her, Pam, and Hans Mock my clients. And I'm here to serve them. I do have some legal authorities that Pam alluded to, but I don't think that's the right way to build the best business model and long-term relationships. So I'm really pleased to be here, and I really appreciate the trust that you put in me and the work we're doing. So the first thing I wanted to mention is, just to kind of give you an economic perspective here. And I'm sorry you're seeing my back.
No, I'm watching the screen. This is interesting.
Oh, perfect. Very nice. So, I chose this graphic in part because the economy has got so many moving parts to it. And I recognize that. But I also want to simplify it for you. And I wanted to do it with this graph right here. What we see here is federal funds. This is, do you ever hear about the Fed funds governors meeting and Jay Powell, et cetera? They are trying right now to control inflation. And the high water mark we see up here, up in that stratospheric 5.25 area, we're deriving some of that value right now in our own bank accounts. But what we're fighting is inevitably a decline. I think we're going to see that decline swifter than what this line is. But with that knowledge, Pam and Bianca started to engage a conversation with me about, hey, how can we lock in some of these rates? And roughly speaking, I mean, we're talking about thousands of dollars difference. Potentially $7,000, $8,000 difference in the return ultimately that we'll have for this commission and for your ability to help those in need. So it's significant, and it just shows a commitment to, hey, we want to be strategic in how we're managing ultimately taxpayer dollars. So with that, I also want to give you a sense of, hey, this is not the wheeler dealer approach. And of course, you would know that just if you knew me, but you'd also know that just from the standpoint of we are required by law to adhere to certain kind of criteria. I actually follow an investment policy, which by the way, Pam, I'll be talking about in February, because we're going to be updating that investment policy and provide a little bit more dimensionality, a little bit more options for what we can do. At the same time, adhering to a strict adherence to FDIC insured. What does that mean? That means that all of the principal is guaranteed to be returned as well as the interest. And we adhere to the requirements. We can't have a bond from JP Morgan and then buy you one, and it's also from JP Morgan if that exceeds 250,000. FDIC would not insure that. And that's sloppy work. We actually, in everything in our portfolio is not duplicated beyond that $250,000 limit. Next, the duration liquidity requirements. You know, when do you need that money? Bianca reviewed the requirements, the commitments you have to the very vital senior organizations that you support. She reviewed that and she gave me the specifications. And thus we made our investments accordingly. So you as a commission have that money when you need it. In addition, Bianca directed me, she said, hey, when that money comes due, I want it back in our account. Now that seems obvious, but that was actually a very shrewd question and requirement towards me, because we do have funds where they mature and we have them in the general fund and then we basically tag them and have it, and you know, we have it available. It is, quote, that organization's funds, but it isn't in a specific account for a variety of reasons. So
That's what they do with the police pension funds, just so you get it. It's the exact same thing.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
yeah,
Right.
yeah. So in that vein, Bianca has a bank account statement that she will get. She will also get portfolio updates from me. And voila, we have a very accountable, responsible approach to make money that you can use for the good work that you're doing. So with that, you know, hey, what are you doing for me, Donna? How are you making me some money? So what we see here is, oh, there it is, there. So we started out with 6-month durations, and we see that with the $450,000 investment, we're going to pull in, you know, somewhere around close to $12,000 for that 6-month period. Then we look at, and we're seeing some declining rates, you know, and again, we're getting a little ahead of the storm here by the movement that senior services team directed me. And there again, we're looking at something close to $15,000 for that 9-month period. And then finally, we were able to secure from senior services $600,000 in total, and that'll bring us over 30 grand. The total amount of income we're looking at over this 12-month period with approximately $1.4 million being invested is that $57,000. So this is something that's real money. It can really help people, and you know, we're proud to be part of that. So again, I just wanted to point out that that total income is, you know, over $57,000. In my opinion, this is what responsible organizations do. And I've taken a program that was, I think, good, and we've ramped it up. We've really ratcheted it up, and we've kind of, I spent today with the CFO, and we're looking under every, you know, sofa cushion out there to find some more money. We think we're going to have some more money. Why do we care about that? Well, if money is waiting in the wings to be used, why can't we use it to ensure solvency and, even more importantly, how we can pay down expenses and, again, lessen that tax burden? So you're part of that, and I'll be anxious to hear how you spend that extra $57,000. So do you have any questions for me?
no liability with the FDIC, and these are all locked-in rates, right? Is there any
Yeah.
liability that we're,
They are. We decided, let's just do something simple. We have other kind of investments, more complicated investments, like for what I do for McDodd. And they have longer durations, et cetera. This is simple stuff. When it matures, you get your principal and your interest back. Done. And then that's it. Cash in pocket, off to the next thing you're doing.
thank you.
Are there any other counties that are doing this currently?
Yes, there are. And I can't speak what they're doing as it pertains to senior services, but basically I'm looking at some of them as a baseline for where I want to be, as where I want our county to be. Currently, we have about 109 million invested. And it's generating in total about 4 million. Now, of course, we have a few extra dollars to brag about. So that just went up to almost 111 million, right? So I'm fudging a little 500,000 there, but in any event, so yeah. Now, do I expect that amount to increase? Yeah, I do. Because I'm making a concerted effort to do that. But I will tell you from a benchmark standpoint, there are other counties that have a higher percentage of their overall revenue streams in investments. And I feel like there's some opportunity for us to take advantage of. So I'll be working on that. I've been working on that since I got here. Yeah, thank you for the question. Yeah. Hey.
I got a softball for Pam, actually. So I think a lot of times people think, oh, this is great, $60,000 we didn't have because of the investing. This aggressive investment opportunities, that's not going to impact the future levy for the Senior Services Grant Fund. So my question is basically, are board members going to look at this and say, oh, well, now we only need to levy 1.5 million next year for senior grant, not 1.6?
I do not believe so, because the correlating question is good, then we can reduce transportation by, and they're not going to do that either, right? So,
and it was a softball for that reason, but I know some board members look at this and say, okay, this is an opportunity to cut the levy for a fund, right? And I think as long as the desire is that it's more money, not just keeping the amount of money stagnant, we're growing the pie, so to speak. That should be the goal, right?
yes. And again, what Scott is also alluding to, and I don't know if you paid attention, but the county did levy more money for senior services for the coming years. Mm-hmm. So we'll be up to 2 million as opposed to the 1.6 that we have had for the past 20 years. Mm-hmm. So we've done a remarkably good job in trying to keep that communication door open and letting people know exactly what we're doing with that money, and trying to meet the needs of the seniors. And using the data that we had put together with Bianca and Hans, the ever increasing number of seniors helped us sell that to the full board. So we kind of hit the trifecta this year, and we can count on that going forward. But we did really well this year in working with our colleagues across the board. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you,
Treasurer Kurtz. We really appreciate it. So,
happy to be here.
Any other questions for Donna?
I have a random question. So I used to audit governments and nonprofits and stuff, and I thought there was something called collateralization, where you would get over the 200, over the FDIC limit. Is that something that is a thing, or is that harder to do when you're?
Yes, great. What is your name?
My name is Carrie.
Carrie, great question, Carrie. It speaks to a deeper knowledge about banking than most people have, and I always find that impressive. It's great to have people like that on your board too, by the way.
Well, that's why she's here.
So, yes, the CDs do not need to be collateralized. FDIC covers that. However, with our bank, we actually had a basic securities collateralization with Associated and with Harvard State Bank. I want to put a plug in for Harvard State Bank. Their collateralization was done by a third-party administrator, and they had the inventory of those collateralized securities. So basically, if your bank goes belly up, you got real money, you got real assets that you will get paid for. And when you have in our case, $250 million in the bank account at any given point, you want that. You want me to have that. Well, Harvard State Medical is fine. They have like about 9 to 11 million at any given point in their bank for us. However, when it comes to Associated, I didn't like the way they did it. They actually have a subsidiary as the collateralization agent. I mean, come on, you know, Associated goes out of business, but oh, the subsidiary doesn't? And I didn't even want to deal with, prove it to me. I didn't know. So within about a week, we have now our collateralization through the Federal Home Loan Bank. And if you know anything about collateralization, that's the gold standard, platinum standard. And so we are fully protected. At any given point, we look at our deposits on a monthly basis typically, but during tax season when we have huge amount of revenues coming in, then we increase our collateralization. As those numbers go down, we do reduce our collateralization. And we're in constant conversation with Associated Bank, who is in touch with the Federal Home Loan Bank. So that's how we do it. Yeah, good question. So, all right. Thank you, guys. I know you learned more than you wanted to, and thank you for not sleeping.
That's always good. That's always good. Learning more is good. Thank you. Thank you very much for taking the time this afternoon on a Friday. Really appreciate
Oh, I
it.
got nothing to do but work, so it's all good.
Makes you feel real comfortable knowing that the money's in her hands. Moving on, old business. We did hear from the transportation applicants. Again, thank you for the courtesy to let Gary talk and get out of here. McRide, Scott, you want to talk about McRide a little bit?
Yeah. Is there a clicker, Bianca, that I can use? Yeah. Take it back by me. So I thought today was
It's a good day.
primarily a transportation day, so I thought, why not? And Bianca had the great idea of having me present on our county Dial-A-Ride program as well. Just because, again, there's been a lot of misinformation over the last 10 years about what the county's program is, what it isn't, how we interact with the townships or the cities. So I thought I would just take 5 minutes to kind of go through and talk about what we offer today. So what is it? It's countywide. As of 2021, we covered the entire county of McHenry plus the Kane County side of Huntley and Algonquin. So if you live in Huntley and Algonquin, you live in Kane County, Del Webb, we serve you. We will take you north, we won't take you south. Because it's county dollars paying for this program. Like the township programs, it's flexible, so you have to call ahead, you're put into a dispatch system, they route the buses depending on who needs rides where. So it's not like buses are operating on the same schedule every single day. It constantly is changing. This is kind of what makes us different than the townships, is it's for anyone. And that's really an important piece, right? We serve seniors, we serve people with disabilities, we serve general public, which are just everybody else. And we also don't limit trip purpose. So you can use this for anything. So it's anywhere, for anyone, for anything. And we work through PACE. PACE works through a contractor. So it's actually, there's 3 parties involved in this. This is a private program operated by a company. PACE is just the contractor they work with First Transit, which is the contractor for PACE to operate the program. Anyone, anywhere, anything. So that kind of, and again, I'll reiterate this: anywhere, anyone, anything we're the only county in the entire Chicagoland region that does this. Every county has a similar type of program to us. But typically those other counties are for only very small subsets of their population. You have to be pre-selected by an agency, for instance, if Pioneer Center said, we want to just serve our clients. They would sponsor their Pioneer clients, but if you weren't a Pioneer client, you couldn't ride their program. We don't operate that way. We say this is public transit, anybody can use it. So it kind of makes us different. I wanted to show this because it kind of goes to show this is a 12-year process to get to where we are today. What's in the upper left is where we started. It began back in 2010. 2010 through 2012, it was basically Woodstock, McHenry, Crystal Lake. And then we partnered with McHenry Township, Greenwood Township, and Dorr Township. And that was the hub that everything sort of expanded from. So what these maps are showing is where people can ride. So for instance, in the upper left, if anyone that lives in Woodstock, McHenry, or Crystal Lake can travel anywhere within those 3 cities. and between those three cities, right? But if you lived in Huntley back in 2012, you had no transportation to speak of, none whatsoever. Yeah, right. So, but you can see kind of as time went on, if you go to the right, 2014, we added the village of Lakewood. We also added Nunda Township in 2014. In 2015, we added a lot more cities. That's when we added Huntley to our program, was in 2015. We added Marengo, we added Harvard, Johnsburg, Ringwood. 2018, we added quite a few more townships and cities. 2019, we added more. 2020, we added more. So this has been an incremental expansion over a decade to get to where we are today, which is this. This is our program today. Anywhere you live, any person can ride anywhere. So we also obviously we stretch into Lake County as well, but I know there's not folks here in that neck of the woods. So how is it funded? So at the very high level, the county and PACE each fund it 50-50. We split the cost of this program. So McHenry County DOT, 99% of what we do at the DOT is roads and bridges, right? That's what we do. But we also do this. We take our transportation money and we put it towards a bus program that's operated by PACE. To the extent of about $2 million a year is what the county is putting into this program every single year. PACE, again, matches that with $2 million of their own dollars. And over the life of the program, the county's put in over $12 million for this program over a decade. So it's kind of been a gradual process to get to where we are today, but there's been a lot of investment made by county taxpayers into this program. We also get and I wanted to talk to Gary before he left, but I'll follow up with him offline. We also get a federal grant. So every other year, that's what this bar chart is here, we apply for a grant through the RTA called the Section 5310 grant for seniors and people with disabilities. So this grant will fund 50% of the cost to provide a transportation trip for a senior or someone with a disability. So over the life of the program, you can see we've gotten many, many awards over the years. It's totaled about $7 million. That's money that offsets the county's costs. That money reimburses the county after we already front the money on the front end, right? So I guess a true way to look at this would be the county over 12 years has really only paid about $5.5 million because we've gotten reimbursed $7 million from the RTA.
And share how much it costs us to provide that service.
This service?
Yeah, I mean, what is it per ride?
Yeah, per ride.
We've broken it down, so, yeah.
It's a tale of two cities. So the pandemic has obviously shaken up everything. Pre-pandemic, in 2019, the cost per trip was about $20 a trip. So $20 every time that's a one-way trip from their home to their destination is $20. The rider, just to give everybody a perspective here, our unofficial goal is 10% fare box recovery. We want the rider to pay about 10% of that cost, so about $2. Used to be the average fare, right? Since the pandemic, so in 2020, 2021, that $20 trip has now turned into a $40 trip. Yeah. Okay, it's doubled in 3 years. And that's just the reality of the situation. The fare hasn't changed. So we're still getting $2, but now instead of the trip costing 20, it's costing 40. So a round trip, that's $80. Every time somebody goes to the store, comes home, that's $80. The taxpayers fund 76 of that, right? The rider pays $2 each way. So it's expensive. And the township, they're gonna have similar numbers to us, if not higher. And that's just the reality of the situation. Transportation is expensive, especially when you have to increase your wages to attract drivers, which drive the wage inflation we've seen is really what's driving a lot of this. Most of what our expenses are wages for drivers, call takers, dispatchers, things like that. What are our hours of operation? This is, again, this kind of differentiates us from the township a little bit. We have much more wide-ranging hours. We serve people currently from 5 a.m. to 11 p.m., 7 days a week. We don't operate on holidays, so there's like 5 days a year we don't operate, but every other day of the year it's 5 to 11. And this too, I wanted to show kind of the progression from 2012 when we started all the way to today. We've slowly added Sunday service. We've expanded hours on Saturdays. Now 2023 we expanded hours even further. So we're continuing to grow and grow and grow. And I put on the left here, just for food for thought, this commission might actually have some role to play in maybe advocating for this. We at the DOT estimate if we were to go 24/7 and just have the program open at all hours of the day, we estimated it only cost about $200,000 to do that. It's a $4 million program, and to go 24/7, 365 probably is only going to be about $200,000 a year additional, right? So really, that's peanuts compared to a $4 million program. But the benefit for somebody working third shift would be immeasurable, right? So it's something that the county board, I know, has debated over the years. They haven't gone through that progression yet, but maybe next year we can look to increase that even further. I mentioned fares. We are doing a fare increase next year. Starting on January 1st, we're increasing fares for the first time since 2019. So currently, in December, it's $3 for the general public and $1.50 for seniors or people with disabilities. That's going up to $4 or $2, depending on who you are. So for the average senior citizen, matters to this commission, it's going to be a 50-cent per trip increase or a $1 round trip increase compared to what they're paying this year. Again, we're trying to get back to that 10% fare box recovery. We're currently only at 5%, so we got to basically double our fare in order to get back to that 10%. Ridership, in 2019, pre-pandemic, we say we had about 100,000 rides. We actually had 105,000 rides in 2019. And then you can see what happened with the pandemic. It was cut in half for the first 6 months of the pandemic. We provided half the trips we did in 2019, but it immediately recovered. And this is very different. This graph would look very different at Metra. Metra is still only at 50% of where they were pre-pandemic. We're currently, in 2023, they're only up to about half of what they were in 2019. We're back to where we were in 2019, and I would expect 2024 we're going to exceed ridership from pre-pandemic. So we're going to set a new record next year for sure. Again, this is ridership. I don't need to go into it, but basically I wanted to show people, I mentioned we serve everyone. So the general public share of our riders, you can see here on the darker blue, it's less than a third. I think the last time I estimated it was about 25% of our riders, 1 in every 4, is just somebody who's not a senior and they're not disabled in any way. They're just going to work, right? Typically, these are people that don't afford a car, can't drive for whatever reason, but still need to get to work. So that's what they're riding. Oh, I think I skipped one. And then the last chart I had here, what are people using this for? It's work. If this program goes away, this is just 1 month of August. That's 4,600 work trips that would go away if this program was not there. And obviously there's a sprinkling of every other type of activity here. Everything from hair appointments to shopping to social activities, dialysis. It runs the gamut. I want to include also average fare is about $2 in August of 23. Average trip length is 6.4 miles, which again sets us apart from the township. The township, they typically, I don't want to generalize here, but I am going to generalize.
Yeah.
They're providing much shorter trips, right? So because the geography is much shorter, their average trip length would be, I'm guessing, much shorter than that. Because our geography is the entire county, we've got people going from Harvard to Woodstock or to Crystal Lake. It's a 25, 30-mile trip. So that's why you see some of these numbers. These are the total number of trips that occurred in August of 23. Most of them are under 10 miles, under 10, 12 miles. But then there's some that go all the way up to 35, 36 miles, which is basically from one corner of the county to the other. So that just kind of gives you a little taste, I guess, of our program. And if there's any questions, I can help answer those now.
Anybody have any questions? Rhonda?
Yeah, I can't help it. I live in the King County side.
Yeah.
And I know their attitude. Okay, I've come up against it, then I kind of gave in. But anyway, I'm so grateful on behalf of the seniors, because it's Sun City that's benefiting from the fact that you're paying attention and helping us through all of Huntley. I'm aware of it. I don't think most people are.
Yeah.
Okay? I'll never say don't do it, because I was at King County. I started with Rutland Township and was rudely insulted by an attitude. We had a blind woman and her husband who came in front, and he said, they're very educated, and he said, if something happens to me, are you gonna take care of my wife in terms of transportation? And she's very well known, by the way, she's totally independent. And they said no. I was horrified. And then I went to King County Board meeting, was horrified. And now there's a battle between Chris Lausen, and you know that, and the chairperson, whom I do not like. And so I think that they should be grateful for this and spend some money from their coffers, because you see, the chairperson came in front of us with her pie charts, that's what I didn't finish telling you, with everything about how much money Kane County is pulling in, which they have a lot of very wealthy towns and a greater geographical area than McHenry. And none of it's coming to Huntley. It's a thought.
I will keep that in mind. I obviously talk with my colleagues at Kane County all the time about their program and how we can work more closely together. What gets me a little upset is that a Kane County resident, we don't require somebody to be a resident to ride our program. So for example, a lot of people take Metro out, then they hop on our bus to get to work, that last mile, right? You don't need to be a resident of McHenry County, even though our taxpayers are paying for this program. So what bugs me is that somebody from Kane County, if they can get a ride from using their program to Huntley, for example, they can then hop on our bus to get anywhere they want, but it doesn't go in reverse. Our residents from, let's say, Crystal Lake can't, get to Huntley and then pick up a Kane County bus, because in Kane County, they have sponsors, right? You need to be affiliated with an agency in Kane County. They need to sponsor you in order to be able to ride your program. So there's this double standard where we have them come up here all the time and we pay for that, but we can't go down there and have them pay for us.
That's wrong.
It's tough, but it's because of these kind of county silos we've built. We've built with transportation and PACE. You'll notice I haven't bad-mouthed PACE at all during this whole presentation. I'm gonna do it now though, because PACE needs to really take a more leadership role in making sure these siloed programs do more closely relate to one another, and they work together, and there's unified structures in terms of the fare system and how people get pay on the bus and things like that. And right now, there's just been this sort of, that's your program, McHenry. This is PACE's view, is that's your program. Kane County has their program. We don't need to sort of make sure that they operate with each other. They see them as different programs, and there's no need to coordinate. And I differ from that. So that was kind of a long response to your point, but I'll keep that in mind for sure.
And there are a lot of efforts. Scott and I bump up into each other at a lot of meetings. Representative Ness is looking at transportation, and she covers both McHenry and Kane. So I think there's an awful lot of attention on trying to collaborate and use our funds more wisely so we get better service using less money. But it can't happen overnight. It just can't. I mean, we're kind of stuck in typical routines, so.
I forgot to mention one thing. This commission used to fund our program, our Dial-A-Ride program, I think from 2012 to 2015, I think we received senior grant money. It was small. I think this commission gave us 60,000 one year, 75 the next. Maybe we got 200,000 one year, but for a $4 million program, that's just a small drop in the bucket. And so we as staff at the DOT made the decision that while we appreciated the support, it was more of an effort than it was worth to do the paperwork, the reporting, to come to the front of the commission to ask for the money. So we eventually just said, all right, we're just not gonna bother anymore. Now, I will say, if this commission, if we had additional funds, if you gave us $1 million, we would come back and ask for that money. We would do a lot with $1 million. But again, we understand the constraints that the commission is under as far as what funding you have available to dole out to individual agencies. So I just wanted to throw that out there. You were a big supporter of our program about a decade ago, but have not supported our program since 2015 at all. So.
Yeah, Carrie.
How do you schedule a ride, and can you take quadriplegic wheelchairs on every bus?
So all of our buses are wheelchair accessible, meaning they have the lifts that carry people onto the bus and they'll secure the wheelchair on the bus. If a quadriplegic wheelchair is different than a standard wheelchair in any meaningful way, I don't know the answer to that. I'd have to follow up. But I would say call and just ask, and they could give you an answer right away. So how you reserve a ride is you would call our call center, and I didn't put the number up there, but it's a 1-800 number. The call center is located in the city of McHenry. We're off of, what's the industrial park in the southern, doesn't.
Prime Parkway.
Prime Parkway, yeah, we're off of Prime Parkway over there. So that's where they house all the buses, they house the call takers, the dispatchers, it's all right there, local in McHenry. And that McHenry call center actually handles both MC Ride and the Lake County program. It's shared at that McHenry call center to keep costs down. And so you call the 1-800 number and there's a prompt saying press 1 for Lake, press 2 for McHenry, and then a call taker picks up. And if you're already registered into our program and you register over the phone, you don't have to fill any paperwork out. They don't ask you for a doctor's note to show you have a disability. They don't ask you to see a copy of your driver's license for your birth date. It's all just the honor system, right? So you call. If you're not registered, they'll ask you a series of questions. Who are you? Do you have any mobility limitations? What's your age? That kind of thing. Where do you live? And then once you're in their system, their computer system, then the next time you want to call and actually schedule a ride, it's as simple as saying, hey, I'm so-and-so, I want to go from here to here. I want to go around 10 o'clock on Tuesday. And they'll say, well, I can't pick you up at 10, but how does 10:15 sound, right? Or how does 9:45 sound? And you can say, well, it's not going to work for me, or yeah, I'll take that trip option. And then once you accept the trip, I always tell people, schedule both legs of your trip at the same time, right? So if you're going to a doctor and you think you're going to be there 2 hours, make sure you schedule your return trip home at 2 hours later. If you don't do that, you can always call the call center to come pick you up, but you're going to be at the back of the line. They're going to get to you when they have availability, kind of a thing. They're never going to leave anybody stranded, but they will. You get definitely prioritization if you schedule both legs of your trip at the same time. So the process is pretty straightforward. I will say, when we get complaints, it's from people that live in the outlying areas of McHenry County, the Richmonds, the Hebrons, even the Harvards and the Marangos,
Right.
who say, listen, I've called Pace, I've asked for a ride at this time, and they always tell me they got nothing available. Or the one thing they have available is actually, I want at 10 o'clock, but they're telling me the only thing they have is 2 p.m. I want at 10 a.m., but I can't take 2 p.m. So that's the limitation of a program like this, is in the areas of the county where the population density is low, you're going to have less options for transportation because the buses aren't out there. The buses are primarily where the people are, right? And so where the people are, you're going to have more options for times. And where people are not, you're going to have more limited availability for times. So we understand that that's a limitation, but we're always struggling with how do we keep costs down. And that's one way you keep costs down, is to prioritize where people live and where people want to go. So.
And the one fixed route that we do have is?
The one fixed route? Yeah, so we have one, so I talked about Dial-A-Ride. Pace also operates fixed routes, which run on a schedule. There's one fixed route in McHenry County. It's down Randall Road from Crystal Lake to Elgin. It's called the 550. It runs Monday through Friday from like 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. And that's the kind of route where you walk to the bus stop and you get on the bus. You don't call anybody, you just walk to the bus and you get on. You pay your fare. And so, but think about that. We have 310,000 people in McHenry County. We have one bus route. And it only serves maybe 50,000 people that can walk to that bus stop, right? So I don't want this to be a pace bashing session, but I think if we were gonna ask for something, more fixed routes would be, I think, a big benefit to our residents and our seniors. I know people say seniors don't want to walk, they want to get picked up. I think if a bus was close enough to their houses, people would walk a couple blocks to access a bus. I mean, as long as the sidewalks are shoveled, and there are sidewalks, and that's also a problem out here, is we've built our cities around the automobile.
There you go.
And not the bus.
And in McHenry County, we built it so that all of our lots, many of our lots are large sizes and our developments were bigger.
Which
and
spreads things apart.
Right,
Yeah.
which is an issue as well, but that's what we chose years ago.
Yeah, so it's a problem, it's a multifaceted problem, and no one's gonna solve it. And again, I started here in 2012, and I I started doing this program, right, 10 years, 12 years ago now. We've made a lot of progress in 12 years. We've got a long way to go. We got probably another 12 years until we're at where I want us to be at, right? We're maybe
But
halfway.
we're working on it.
Yeah.
We're working on it. I mean, it's something constantly moving
Well,
forward.
and while we're talking about limitations, our program is still only cash. If you can't pay with a credit card, you can't pay with Ventra, you have to get on the bus and pay cash. It's your only option. And so the county has been asking PACE to have an electronic payment system for 12 years, and for 12 years, PACE has said no. So I keep asking, and I keep getting told no, but I'm gonna keep asking until they put something on the bus, because I think it's wrong that in 2023, you need to have $275 in exact change to get a ride. That's just unbelievable. Like Uber was operating cashless a decade ago, 15 years ago.
Right.
That's what people expect.
But they can buy those coupons, right? Sorry to interrupt.
DOT, we sell.
Can I do this? I'm gonna interrupt you.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm gonna lose Abby at 3.
You know what? I got a ride for my daughter from preschool.
You're good? Okay, go ahead, Scott. Sorry, I wanted
It's
to
okay.
have a forum to take
I
action.
get
Go
long-winded
right ahead.
sometimes.
No,
I'm passionate
fine.
about this. So DOT at my employer, we sell, we call them fare cards. They're $3 a piece. So sometimes, I know some townships, some cities buy a couple hundred of these fare cards and they hand them out to people, residents, people that need transportation. And they're essentially free rides. So an agency buys them from us, they hand them out to riders, and the rider gives them to the driver when they get on the bus, and that's their fare. That is a painful system to have to administer and track. We want to get rid of it. We wanted to get rid of it 10 years ago. The only reason it exists is because there is no alternative, because PACE hasn't put an alternative in place. So we've had to jerry-rig this awful system that works. I mean, people are still using it. We sell about, 4,000 fare cards a year. So people are using it, but it's the least bad option that we could find.
Is that true all across all areas for PACE?
All the dial-a-rides are not, no dial-a-ride in the Chicagoland region has the ability to use Ventra or credit cards yet. I'm gonna keep asking PACE, but
I think we can talk to our suburban legislators. It'd be great legislation.
well, we talked about the fiscal cliff, the RTA consolidation thing earlier. The big thing there is not the governance. The governance is being talked about. How do we govern transit? Is it one board? Is it 4 boards? The bigger issue, though, is funding. So in 2026, there's gonna be $1 billion budget gap in transit funding. That's PACE, Metro, CTA. They're gonna have $1 billion shortfall in 2026, which means they're gonna have to either raise revenue to cover that shortfall or cut about 40% of everything they do, right? So that one bus route goes away, 40% of our funding from PACE goes away. 4 out of 10 Metro lines go away, 4 out of 10 CTA lines go away. That's the reality of what we're up against. And so getting Ventura on MC Ride might not be the biggest priority for PACE right now. They got much bigger things to worry about 2 years down the line.
What's gonna cause the shortfall?
So the way we fund transit in Chicago is the rider, system-wide, the rider pays 50% of the cost to provide transit. So if you think about that, half of the operated budget is rider fares. Now, I mentioned earlier, Metra is at about half the ridership they were pre-pandemic. So half of their fare revenue is gone.
Gone.
And that's how they fund their system. And same thing with CTA. CTA hasn't recovered fully yet. PACE has more recovered than the other two. But that's the issue, is people haven't returned to transit in the numbers that they want in order to fund the system adequately.
It's because many of the people who rode transit at that level are still at home working. There's still many days, and you see that.
And that's
Where
why
out here,
Metro-
that's not so true.
That's why
Yeah,
Metro struggles the most,
Exactly, yeah. Uh-huh.
But it impacts not just Metro, it's gonna impact us. I mean, here locally, again, PACE puts in $2 million a year for this program. They could say in 2026, listen, we can only give you $1 million. And then the county needs to make a decision. Do we increase our commitment to this program by $1 million, or do we just not provide $1 million worth of rides? That's 10,000 rides we don't give in 2026, for example. So, just food for thought. I could talk forever about this, but I'll sit down unless there's more questions that you guys have about this.
And hopefully, what I talked about at the very beginning, those of you who are relatively new, these are the kinds of presentations, and this is the kind of information I think it's absolutely crucial that we share, because you also are our representatives in the community. And if you are armed with more information, we are sharing that appropriately with our constituents, and they become much more informed about what the county is doing and the limitations. So, thank you, Scott.
Yep.
I truly, and I know you're passionate. I love it. So, next order of business is actually now the allocation. If you'll recall, what we did is we put aside $50,000 in a contingency fund with regard to the transportation requests of McHenry Township, Richmond Township, and Hebron, City of Hebron, with the idea that we would continue to work and see if there was something that we could assist with or help with, working with PACE to provide more money. And money isn't always, in my estimation, cash. It's also services which reduce the cost. So unfortunately, the fiscal determinations and budgets that we didn't have that opportunity. Scott and I will be working very closely moving forward into 2024 to see if that isn't more available. Again, providing training, dispatch, et cetera. However, right now the question is, what are we going to do with the $50,000? The requests were higher than the year before. What we actually provided in this 2023 year was $20,000 to McHenry, $20,000 to Richmond, and $6,000 to Hebron. Hebron asked for 7 this year. McHenry asked for, what was it, 30? And Richmond asked for 60?
42.
42, sorry, 42. So what I'm going to suggest, after you heard all of this, is I'm opining. I think McHenry is going to be the one who has the investment and professionalism to try and collaborate with the other two entities. So I'm going to suggest that we fund McHenry Township at $24,000, give Richmond their 20 that we did last year, and give Hebron the 6 that we gave them last year. So technically what I'm doing is giving McHenry Township the extra $4,000 that's there, so that we can help them move forward and really be the driver of trying to collaborate these programs together. That is my recommendation. You may talk amongst yourselves, but I figured I'd throw something against the wall to see where you wanted to go.
As a board, are we committed to giving this $50,000 to these 3 entities?
We did. When we did the contingency fund, I'm sorry, Eric, yes, we said the
Sorry,
50,000 would
wasn't
be, nope, you weren't here, for that whole conversation. We said we'd put the 50,000 aside while we worked with PACE and saw what we could do in the county.
Okay.
And if we were unsuccessful, we'd come back and that 50,000 would be allocated somehow between those 3 entities.
Thank you.
And that's
Sorry.
how it was explained to the county board as well when they approved the allocations.
I like the idea of giving McHenry Township more, because they certainly have taken the leadership role in pulling this all together.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that, you know, again, Gary's been very receptive, and he really wants to do this. And as you can see, he's a little bit more knowledgeable, and he's putting in the effort, again, with the PACE buses, working with the others. And I really believe that they're the ones who are gonna have the drivers and be able to move forward. So that's just that's how I kind of see it. Not to influence you, but kind of sort of.
I like your numbers, I just wish we could give Hebron the 7,000.
Okay,
You know what I mean?
so here's what I can throw out to you too. Just as an aside, can be in the minutes. We're gonna earn $57,000 because of the program on investments. There is no reason, midpoint, we can't at one of our meetings allocate additional monies, seeing where that program is. And I have no problem doing that. I know that we said at the beginning you probably would only have X amount of meetings, but this group has been phenomenal. So if we have to do that, if we can do that, I am more than willing to bring us back if there's additional funds. So we can consider that as well, Carrie. Maybe it'll be more than that extra 1,000, depending upon.
Right.
And we are working with them also. Their buses are falling apart. I mean, their school buses, can you imagine? And their old school buses.
Whose buses?
Hebron, the city of Hebron. Now, that program runs differently. They actually, all the seniors actually get rides to the city building, to the city hall. And the Hebron bus picks them all up at City Hall and drops them off off at, so it is kind of a socialization program as well for all those seniors. But they're gonna have trouble finding drivers. They're really struggling a lot right now.
Right now, they're using for the month of December, they're using Richmond's driver, I
Right.
believe.
Right.
And at that mid-year point, I'm assuming, 'cause I'm new, just to be clear, they submit reports throughout the year.
Oh, yeah, no, Bianca's, and we ensure that they are spending their money appropriately, so we have no money left over at the end of the year. Yeah,
So at that mid-year, we can come together, make sure the program's being utilized, see who needs the funds. Great.
yeah.
So, and what I can fill you in right now from last year, McHenry and Richmond both only received 20,000. They used up all their money by second quarter. Mhm. The Village of Hebron still has a little bit left over right now this year. They haven't submitted their fourth quarter request. But McHenry and Richmond, they both utilized all their money by second quarter, so.
And again, much of that is used to pay the driver, right? So when you don't have a driver, you don't have an expense, so.
When would we be discussing the extra money to allocate? Or would that just be added to next September when we give out the money?
We've got some CDs that are coming. I guess it's based on the disbursement and how much interest we're earning. You saw what Donna had given us. The first two CDs, when they come due, will be an extra 12,000. So again, I have no problem, again, staying in touch with those entities if they need that money, bringing you all back, and we'll talk about it then.
I was thinking about the unallocated monies from now that the
Oh.
year is over.
Oh, there's
So-
virtually hardly any left.
Yeah, right now, we are currently still receiving the
Reports.
reimbursement reports. Yeah, so I don't have the exact numbers yet. The next meeting is scheduled for February 16th, I believe, so I'll have a spreadsheet for you guys, so you can see how much money was left over. There are a couple that might have like a couple hundred left, so
Yeah,
those.
it's not a big amount.
Yeah, those entities, I mean, it is a little bit, but,
But the first CDs we've invested, they come due,
in 6 months. So I made sure to leave out enough money to cover fourth quarter of program year 23 and the first quarter of 24.
Right. So we'll always look at those numbers, and if there's the availability and the need, we don't do any good keeping it in the bank account. That's not the point, so. Does anybody else have any other, suggestions or recommendations or discussion?
Have all of these three approved their budget for FY '24? I mean, do we know?
That's all April 1st.
The townships are April 1st, but the village probably is approved
Not
Oh, I'm
May
sorry.
1st.
not till May 1st. Okay. All right, I was just curious, so how, so they can react to whatever appropriation we give them today with their budget and make up the
Right.
shortfall locally,
Yes.
right?
And again, with your permission, specifically, I would love the minutes to reflect that we talked about utilizing some of that interest revenue that we receive to maybe prop up some of these, I'll say township, but township/city transportation programs, depending upon what kind of report we get from everybody at that time. And then the county board will obviously be well aware that that's our intent. Yay? Okay. So if there's no further discussion, I'll take a motion approving that type of an allocation to send that to the board for approval.
Could you go back over those three figures again? The
Yes,
three
McHenry
entities?
Township would receive $24,000 as opposed to the 20 that they received from
Okay.
us in 2023.
All right.
Richmond would receive the exact same amount they received in 2023, as would Hebron. So they're getting the exact same amount of money they received the year before, except McHenry will get an additional $4,000.
Okay.
Do you want one motion or a motion for each one?
It's up to you. If you're gonna approve it as we presented it, one motion will do me fine.
I move that we approve the additional transportation allocations with McHenry Township getting $24,000, Richmond getting $20,000, and Hebron getting $6,000.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Excellent, thank you, John. All those in favor say aye, or do we have to do a roll call because it's money?
Yeah.
Let's do a roll call.
Okay,
Please.
Goldman,
Yes.
Hart,
Yes.
Henning,
Yes.
Foltz,
Yes.
not here, Nicholas,
Yes.
Pletz,
Yes.
Ruth,
No.
Alta,
Yes. Motion carries. Motion carries. Is there any other business, any other comments?
Peanut gallery.
Yes, ma'am, peanut gallery.
Hans just wanted me to remind you that the resolution will be retroactive to December 1st.
Yes.
He's going to put that in.
Thank you.
So just so everybody knows with these approvals.
Thank you. Yes, we want these to go before the county board as quickly as possible, so the townships and the city can get their monies allocated in 2024 as soon as we can. So it'll be backdated to reflect December 1st to go before the full county board, so the money can go out. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. All right, if nothing else, I'll take a motion to adjourn. Yes, John. Yes, Abby. Done. We're on.